Our last speaker, and then we'll turn it over for some questions. Our last speaker is Jim Lively. He's Program Director for the Michigan Land Use Institute, and he's going to talk about the Oil and Water Don't Mix campaign's citizen outreach, accomplishments, and plans for moving forward. Go ahead, Jim.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, I appreciate the comments of everybody who was here, especially those that are right in harm's way of the pipeline. I just want to speak for the rest of the campaign and for many of the citizens of Michigan who are also expressing their concern. And I'll start by saying that as a lifelong Michigander myself, who has spent every summer of my life driving across the Mackinac Bridge, when I learned just over a year ago that there was a pipeline in the Straits of Mackinac, I was completely shocked and couldn't understand how we as the citizens of Michigan didn't know about this pipeline. And since then, have been talking to many other folks, including the folks that are here today, asking whether others knew about this. And the fact is, no, it's been a surprise to almost all of us. So in fact, the group, I just tell a little story about how we got to bring this campaign together, and then we'll talk about where we're going. It was a small group of northern Michigan citizens that were involved in a climate campaign, learned about the Keystone XL and the threats to the climate from a pipeline way out west, that came back from a climate rally and learned then, rather surprisingly, from a National Wildlife Federation report, that we have our own pipelines here in Michigan. And the first we heard about them, of course, was 4 years ago when the Kalamazoo River absorbed that 1 million gallons of oil from an Enbridge pipeline. And it was then that we learned about Line 5 and the threat that exists in the Straits of Mackinac. So really beginning just last spring, a coalition or a campaign began to formalize to say we need to get the word out to much more of Michigan that we have this risk right in the waters of the Great Lakes. We reached out to many of the organizations that you see here, led by groups like the Michigan Environmental Council and FLOW, Michigan Land Use Institute, Sierra Club, Tip of the Mitt Watershed Council. These are the groups that came together early last summer and began to develop a campaign to raise awareness. What you'll see that we've done is we've put together a website that is now a place where you can find kind of a consortium or a consolidation of all the information about Line 5, including a video, a TV commercial that we've been running all summer throughout northern Michigan, again, just to raise awareness so that folks understand that there is a pipeline in the waters. We also have a video of an animation of what a spill would look like in the Straits of Mackinac that was done by the University of Michigan. Very informative, and it does show, as Aaron said earlier, how devastating a spill would be to all of the beaches and the communities around the Straits of Mackinac. So we have that video on the website. We also, well, let's see, on the website, these groups, as it was mentioned earlier by Liz, in July we sent a letter to Governor Snyder requesting state leadership and state action, and we've been seeking that action. In fact, that's what brings us here today, is we're, again, asking the governor to take leadership. There is a letter on the website with now more than 2,300 people that have signed on, asking the governor to take some leadership on the issue. We brought our campaign to the Labor Day Bridge Walk. In fact, where Governor Snyder was leading the walk, we had about 60 volunteers there in shirts and hats gathering petitions. I brought the petitions with me here today. We had about 1,300 petitions were signed just that day alone from folks that were, again, learning for the first time as they just walked over the Mackinac Bridge that there were pipelines right there next to them. So our campaign continues to grow. We are gathering signatures. We are gathering organizations and groups. Many of the folks that are here today we've just met since the Labor Day Bridge Walk. This is really a growing campaign as Michigan citizens learn about the risk and understand that we really are pointing at our state's top officials and Governor Snyder to take action. We are building this pressure right now for Governor Snyder, our state's top leader, to enforce the state law and a state easement pertaining to these oil pipelines lying on state land in the state's public trust waters. Clearly, this is a state issue, and we need state leadership. So, the governor's duty and responsibility is equally clear. This is our campaign's commitment to protecting the Great Lakes from a catastrophic oil spill. We intend to continue to grow our campaign and to continue to bring the pressure to our leaders for action. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I think with that, why don't we wrap it up? As I've said, if you have questions, feel free to follow up with me, Andy McGlashan. My information is on the press release and other materials. I'd also point folks to oilandwaterdon'tmix.org. You can find a fact sheet there that has pretty much all the information, the background details on this issue, as well as some video resources and other good information there. So again, feel free to contact me or others in the campaign, and thank you very much for joining the call. We appreciate it.